Thank you for mentioning that, Jen. I just realized, I was like, yep, I did not hit record on that. Good call. Uh, okay, so I'll probably do a short little video when I post this to the Zoom page. I'll post this to the Zoom page, give you guys access to it so you have it in the future to refer to, and probably do a little video to cover those few minutes. But when I was a kid, I was um, having little like flashes of time, things that would happen in 10 years, 5 years, whatever it was, and didn't realize what was happening because I was a kid. I wasn't taught to believe in anything spiritual. We were very, uh, it was a Christian household, but it wasn't one that went to church. It was kind of like a household that you believed in Christianity, but we didn't really practice it, type of thing. But if you brought anything outside of Christianity in, it was bad, evil, that type of thing. So I didn't have a lot of experience with spirituality until I was older in high school and college, and really digging into stuff and realizing that I was time traveling. But I always still thought in the sense of linear time, like, oh, time is linear, it goes forward. Um, and it wasn't until I experienced these other realities, these other dimensional spaces, that I started realizing time is not real at all. And the more I woke up, the more it started shifting into a now moment state where you really start realizing only the now moment matters, and you have your past, but the future and stuff can be shifted, changed, altered, that sort of thing. And there are uh, what I would call fixed points of the journey based on decisions you're making now that you can foresee in the future. Now, with all of that, it was when ETs started coming to me that I really realized time is just does not exist. I had one being come to me one time, and he showed up, and it was uh, it for an equivalency type thing. If you looked at him, let's say he was like 40s when he showed up, and he was doing some healing work with me. After that, it was a few more months went by, and when the few months went by, some other being shows up and starts doing healing work with me. Only this is in a hunched over, elderly looking extraterrestrial, but felt very familiar to me. And I was like, what the heck is going on? This feels familiar. I've never seen him before. And here it was the same being, but time, because it's not linear in the same places, it doesn't exist. Like, he had aged completely different pace and had spent years and years and years within just a few months going by on Earth. So it started really getting me questioning what was going on. And then there were, uh, you know, we have prophetic dreams, visions, and those types of things that as we move, man, why am I'm like, the information is like stuck for some reason. Let's take a second here. Okay. So early on, when I was in high school, I was having prophetic dreams, having visions, and not understanding what they were, not understanding I was really time traveling, experiencing these different forms of travel that I talk about. And there are several forms. I categorize them as visions, dreams, astral travel, which is when you leave your body, conscious travel, which is this type of experience that ETs can help with in actually dropping your consciousness into a past or for future version of yourself, which is really, really trippy. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then there are like time bleeds, which are areas of the world that because everything is happening at once, it's almost like you can see those other time periods while you're sitting in that space. You can see what's going on. It's um, an interesting experience. And then portals through time can be opened too. Now, the first type of time travel type of thing that I experienced were the visions and the prophetic dreams. And a vision is more of a flash, a knowing, an experience you have, and you're kind of like, why is that flashing in my mind? And then a week or two later, so let's say you thought of somebody that you haven't seen for 10 years, and then a week later you actually run into them, but there was no intention of running into them, no intention planned on their part or anything like that. Those are those visions, those flashes of energy and that sort of thing that you're seeing based on the choices you're making now, in the energy that exists right now. And then prophetic dreams are kind of the same way, but in the prophetic dreams, a lot of times it's guides that are feeding us information, and they're feeding us information in this sense of the Akashic records. They can be feeding us information from there. And a lot of times it's to bring awareness of what is coming up so we can prepare for different events that are going to happen, to help us respond rather than react to those events. So, for example, one of the ones I had was I had this dream of a friend. We had a falling out, and I had a dream of them wrapped in chains with a timer around them, around the chains, and it was counting down. And in the dream, I realized, I was like, oh, this is a prophetic dream. I was doing a lot of dream work in my 20s at the time. And the timer clicked off, and it's like the chains fell off of them. And it was one of these things where I knew they were getting ready to reach out to me again, to talk to me again. But it was like they were holding themselves back, type of thing. And the chains had to fall off, this countdown timer. And it was within a week or two that this person ended up coming back into my life. But because of how the relationship had been, had I not known, it would have been more difficult, I guess, to experience that meeting versus knowing, and then being like, oh, okay, I can prepare my mind. I know they're coming, figure out how to respond, that type of thing. So a lot of the things that we see are meant to help us on our journey, prepare for what is coming, and just let us know that something is going to happen, prepare your mind, type of thing. So then there are astral travel, time travel experiences. And this is where you're leaving your body and you're actually traveling to different places and times on your timeline. Now, this is where I'll start talking a little more about how time actually works, because visions and dreams, in my experience, what I found is if you have a vision or a dream, chances are it's going to happen. Now, you might not understand that exactly what's going to happen, but you'll get that vision, you'll get that information, and then it's like within a week or two, maybe a little more. They happen very quickly. The astral travel stuff, this is where you can see into the future and travel almost like different realities at times. My guys are showing me, like, if you of this, I should show you this now. So if you have a point in time, so can everybody see this okay? So say this is the now moment and this is a future moment. We can get to there by going straight right here. Now, with time is kind of like based on choice. So if we make a choice, depending on the choice we make, we could go like this, we could go like this, we could go all kinds of different paths to get to that moment, depending on the choices we make. And astral travel can actually take you into some of those choices to see uh, different timelines, different things that aren't, it's it's like different things that are potential realities, but they actually are real realities. For example, I had a friend who went back, or not went back, she astral traveled from this point in time, when it was like 10 years ago, astral traveled from that point in time to a dimensional space in time where she existed, but her sister didn't exist because choices were made in that timeline that did not bring her sister into being. So you can actually travel these different realities that are um, shifted based on the choices made on a timeline. And this is why it's important when we talk about choice. Like if you want to make a decision, make a shift in your life, choice is important because every choice, and this is also the weird part, because even though time doesn't exist, it's like time the way we think of it doesn't exist, but these timelines and stuff exist, and now moments exist, and different realities exist. So it's this idea of somebody asked me once, they were like, describe time without using the word time, and it's very difficult when we do that, try to do that. But the idea is that you have a now moment, you make choices, and every choice you make can shift your reality, and your soul can jump the timeline you're experiencing. So astral travel can take you into those different spaces, and you might see things like that, like that friend I had who didn't see her sister because the sister was never born, type of thing. So you can experience things of that nature. You can also experience astral travel of your future that's kind of more of a fixed point in time, where you guides take you and they go, hey, this is going to happen. Here's the experience. For example, one that I've seen is me at a party, some sort of, yeah, I'd rather than call it a party, I'd say some sort of gathering, and bunch of people are dancing, and they're like, this is going to happen. And I was astral traveling there and seeing those moments, but I still don't understand how it happens. I understand that I was there, that I was at this party, and that it is a kind of a fixed moment in my experience. And what's interesting is I was having a lot of those visions before I knew certain people in my life that I know now. And as those people came along, it started filling in like, oh, that was the person that I saw in that moment, type of thing. So it was preparing me mentally that, hey, people are coming. This is going to happen. Keep moving forward with this type of, for example, with this type of work. I've had a lot of tests myself in moving forward with this type of work to continue the choice in the timeline of that existence, or going back into, say, a 3D workforce. And part of seeing those future events is going, hey, if you do this, you will get to this point, this event, this outcome that is coming up. Now, the interesting thing with that is when you get to conscious time travel, where you've built a relationship with ETs or other beings who have this ability to shift time and shift. I don't even know how to describe it. Some people call it time dilation. I've had an experience where they dropped in and actually slowed it down so that I had blinking lights on like a speaker system, for example, and I was physically there talking to them and didn't know this was happening. But I'm looking at the speaker system and realizing the blinker is going really, really slow and almost on constantly. And then they said, they were like, we can control and shift the nature of time and how you experience it. So a few seconds on, the Earth perception is actually 10 minutes of us talking, type of thing. So there are beings that can do that, that can control the flow of time, slow it down, speed it up, but they also have technologies that can charge your I've heard some people describe it as plasma. I just feel like it's energy. When they come and they're like, "Hey, let's do this if you want to." They charge your energy and they drop you into moments in time that are actually you experiencing it at that moment. So your consciousness drops into your body, and then you can look around and kind of feel what's going on and um, move around and talk to people. Now, that's a very difficult thing to do. You have to have um, some trust built with beings who do it, but it's also one of these things that if you are offered an opportunity like that and they say, "Hey, you want to do this work," it is there's a physical toll in the sense of there's a lot of strain and focus and practice to do that and build that up. Just like with astral travel, there are techniques to astral travel where astral traveling is kind of like a skill you build up. And then the conscious travel too is a skill that builds up over time. And it was interesting because I used to have these, I always thought it was that word hypertension or something, like where you stand up and your blood rushes and your head kind of fades out, your vision fades out. I always thought it was something like that in high school and that sort of thing. I definitely did not eat healthy back then. I mean, I was drinking Mountain Dew all day long and chips and not a healthy diet while I was in school. And so I thought these things were more just health related issues when I got older. Well, then 2 years ago, a year or two ago, I found out a lot of it was actually me dropping into those moments in time to tell myself something, and to tell myself, like, I had a family that was very toxic and saying things like, "Oh, it'll get better." I used to hear this voice like, "It'll get better, just keep moving forward, do this, do that." And here it was me going back and telling my younger self, "Do this, because once you get out, you'll start shifting timelines to this much better version of time." And uh, then the more I did that, the more I realized, like, I could go into the future and have these moments that were also this idea of um, preparation is the word my guides are giving me, that a lot of us experience it for preparation, that we go into these moments. And one of those moments, I went back to that um, event with that big gathering of people. It got much more detailed because I was consciously dropped into my body, and I actually felt that like rush of blood type thing in that moment, and almost fell off a chair. And my friend walks over in that moment and looks at me, and I'm going, what's going on? I'm kind of in a daze because I'm not used to doing this work. And she pulls out a note and hands it to me. And the note is written by me to me and is about, do the spirit art, keep going, continue, keep it up, type of thing. I think we just lost. I'll see if she comes back. Keep it up, type of thing. And so I look at that, and every once in a while I reference that, because if I'm having a difficult uh, uh, time, so to speak, in this, let me just let her jump back in. You there, Rosa? You there, Rose?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So all I was saying was that I went back to this gathering, this event, and kind of stumbled because of that blood rush. And then the friend walked up and handed me a note. And the note had very specific things on it written down to me. And I read it. And she's like, calm down. It's okay. Here's the note. And it said exactly what I should do for this path. So it was about preparation, because had I not seen that, first of all, I'd question a lot of the stuff I was doing now, because I wasn't even doing I wasn't doing workshops, I wasn't doing events of any kind, barely doing any spirit art when this happened last year. And it was about uh, continuing forward, doing the work, and always coming back to what I love in this type of thing. And when I wrote it down in my journal, what was interesting is I wrote it down in the journal, and then I realized I wrote it in the journal of the paper they handed me in the time travel moment. And I always carry that type of journal with me when I travel. So if I was at that event, I would have that journal, write it down, and it would be the same type of paper. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but the idea is this stuff happens to prepare us. And sometimes we can experience these things in such advanced ways that we can communicate with the people who are around us, and especially awake people. One of the things that's going to happen as more people wake up is more of these uh, future, I don't know why they're using the word incarnations. I don't know why that word's coming in, but this idea of interacting with the future and interacting with the past, fulfilling things of the past. Like I used to, it was really strange. I used to always hear this phrase when I was a kid on the school bus: do not date anybody named so-and-so. And it was my ex's name. Now, going in my 20s, and I kind of just push it to the side and ignore it. I meet my ex. I get into a relationship with her. It's a toxic relationship. 11 years later, I get out. And just a few months ago, my guide sat me down and said, we need to do some work with your inner child, and we need to actually go talk to you as a child. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would that be? We get into the a salt bath, because I use salt baths for a lot of this work. Get into a salt bath, I close my eyes, and I can feel myself back on that bus, telling myself, don't do this. But the thing is, if I don't tell myself not to do it, it's like I have this bad habit of, if somebody tells me not to do something, I do it anyway. You know, a lot of us do. Uh, it's like self-fulfilling almost. You go back and you fulfill some of the things that you might have heard or seen to help your younger self, whether it's giving them warnings, giving them advice, or just calming them down type of thing. And as more my guides are saying, kids especially, as the kids come in and more of us wake up, more of this stuff is going to happen. If it didn't happen in your past, you might start experiencing this idea of shifting into the future, seeing a now moment, especially when you have big choices. If you have choices to start a new business, a spiritual business, or anything like that, they might come to you and be like, okay, here's your now moment right now with your choice. If you make this choice in X amount of time, and when I say X amount of time, they don't actually give us time frames. So a lot of times they're just like, hey, this is coming in the future. And I've just learned from my own experience, most of the stuff I experience, unless I truly feel it's far, far, far in the future, and there are some things that are far, far, far in the future that could change a million different ways, usually happens within a year or two, which is nice in the sense of, if I'm going to make a choice and I'm kind of leaning the wrong way, I see those time travel moments, and they're like, no, remember, if you stick through this, this will happen. It just might be a difficult transition to get there initially. So those are what did I cover? Visions, dreams, astral travel, conscious travel. Yeah. Another one to bring up was past and future selves. did did anybody see the starseed post I made earlier today or yesterday maybe? There's a so does everybody know what a starseed is? Let me ask that. So starseed is a just the kind of a past life on a different world, past life on an ET world. Uh, and a lot of people, they're interested in that because they often relate that more to their most recent past life. So they might be like, oh, I'm of this ET race because that was the last past life I had. We have many, many lives, usually on a variety of different worlds and races and that. But one of the things with this, with time travel, as you wake up to it, is you start realizing you can talk to beings far, far in the past on different worlds, in different spaces. I realized what was it? I don't know, 4 weeks ago or something. My starseed readings always felt different. Uh, a lot of people go to the Akashic record. They go to the Akashic record. They pull the information, and that's the Akashic records are like the history of the whole universe type of thing. So you can pull information. You say, hey, I'm looking for a starseed origin for Rose, and they'll give you that information to see. But I was actually talking to beings in the moment of doing the reading, and they were giving me details about where they were, what they were doing, what the purpose was, all of this. And these were very conscious, connected, higher energy beings. In a few readings, my guides just gave me information and showed me images. But there were a couple times where I was doing this and like, I had to keep checking in going, am I doing a starseed reading? And they're like, yes, but you haven't realized yet that you're also using your time travel abilities to go back through, quantum, however it works quantumly, to go back to that moment. And because that being is conscious, they can speak to you too telepathically and tell you. So it makes it a very unique interaction, because I've had them actually, I had one who was in a like a warehouse telling me what they were doing in the warehouse. I had another one who was actively telling me how they were making hand motions to shift energy and that sort of thing. So it made it a lot more, a lot easier when I was explaining it to the client, because it was like I had just talked to them type of thing. And we can do that with our past selves too. So as you wake up with these different connections in time travel, you might go into meditation and be talking to somebody and be like, hey, this kind of feels like me. You might be in meditation thinking you're talking to a spirit guide that feels like you, and realize it's you from the past or even the future guiding you now. That stuff all happens. I've worked with my past self as a Native American. I've worked with a future version of me as an ET, and another one as a Syrian that looks a lot like, I forget, the Na'vi from Avatar. There are beings that look like the Na'vi from Avatar on some of the other planets. And then, so those are some of the types of time travel there. The two other ones were time bleeds, which is like you're standing in place, and when you wake up to these different energies and dimensions, and you're sitting, say, in a forest or in the desert. The desert was the trippy one for me, because I was in the desert and I watched at one point a dinosaur run by. And at the time, I'm talking to an ET telepathically. We were working on my telepathic skills. And I'm like, did I just see that happen? Like, that, there's no way that happened. There's like carnivorous dinosaur bipedal runs right by. And they go, yeah, there are time bleeds in the area. And then I was like, well, what's that? And they explain it to me. And here it's where you can be in your moment of time, and the energy of every now moment is bleeding together. And sometimes we perceive it. So we perceive different beings. We perceive them moving around. We might perceive a building. And now we can do that from a dimensional space too, in the sense that we can be standing somewhere and see something like a building, for instance, that's in another dimension, that's in another reality. But we can also do it from a time standpoint where we're standing there in the, like, however it works. These bleeds happen with energy, and we just perceive what is going on in that moment that it's bleeding with. Uh, the other one I had seen was I was driving through the desert one night, and I'm like, there's prehistoric trees everywhere, but it's the flat desert. And I kept looking out the corners of my eyes, and I could see these prehistoric giant trees all over the place. So those are some other things you may end up experiencing. And then portals can be opened through time, which a wormhole. When we astral travel, a lot of times we open wormholes to do that astral travel work, and that's just a shift through space and time. So we can open up through astral travel. As I talked earlier, we can go back in time, we can go into the future type of thing. But then you can have like beings who actually open up windows. The one that I experienced was like a frog folk wizard opened up a window and showed me a mammoth in the desert, again, not far from the area that had time bleeds. Showed me a mammoth walking the landscape when the landscape was different, and then a dire wolf and some other things that once existed out there. And yeah, so those are the types of time travel types of things that you may experience as you move forward. There were a lot of lessons I've learned doing this work. I'll just cover those a little bit and then go into the ways to shift timelines. With time travel stuff, especially prophetic future types of things, it's not the easiest thing because we are often giving glimpses without all the details. So as you work and wake to these types of things spiritually, if you're only in a stage where you're having visions or you're having dreams, dreams are often laced with symbolism. So that can be something that needs to be interpreted through the dream symbolism. Visions are often, the way I've had them is I'll see something and a lot of stuff is blurred out because I'm only supposed to see part of it. And I used to do this with conventions a lot. I would walk into a convention and be like, I've already been here. But what it was is it had a vision of it. And I had a vision of go to this table, go to that table, talk to this person, talk to that person, and everything else would be blurred out. And the idea was just that when I was there, it put me on the right track to talk to the right individuals I needed to talk to. And that got trippy too, to the point where I was in conversation a few times, like, hey, haven't we had this conversation before? And you have to catch yourself and be like, no, okay, don't mention that we've had this conversation before to people because that doesn't go over well, type of thing. But this idea with seeing the future or traveling timelines is to just experience it. I mean, the biggest lesson I've learned is to just experience it and let it be. When you come back, try not to force it. I was talking to a client the other day who had seen herself buying a house, and she was like, so then as soon as she got out of that, she started looking for a house and she hasn't found it. And I was like, yeah, because you're forcing it. If you try to force it, it's not going to happen. It's there to let you know it's coming. That moment in time is coming if you keep moving through life with ease and trusting and doing what you're supposed to be doing with your spiritual work or whatever it is in your point at your point of life. And if we focus on it, if we try to change it and we go like, so in the instance of a house, that can bring a lot of anxiety into your life to be like, oh, I see this moment, but I'm not getting it. I'm not receiving it. It's not happening yet. And so one of the biggest lessons I've learned doing this is just to experience the time travel moments. When you realize they're happening, experience the vision, And just when it happens, know, recognize, and understand that you're in that moment that you saw, and whatever you saw was there to guide you. So, for example, if I was at a convention and I had seen the path, the tables, I knew I could go to those tables. Those were like friends or networking connections or people. For some reason, I had to meet them, type of thing. They were visions to help me with that path and to benefit from those moments, so I knew exactly what to do. Um, Versus a lot of people, they'll start seeing the future and they'll start being trying to force things into the now moment, and it's like we can't get to that moment if we don't take the time. Time doesn't exist, but take the time to actually do the steps to get there. It's just a very it's a very valuable skill set to have, to build trust in yourself, to build surrender to the universe, is one of the things my guides are saying, to help us surrender so that we know that whatever path we're on, if we see that, we can continue forward and that will come to us. Um, Now, there are times that we want to shift a timeline. For example, when I was with my ex, I had a very, like, an astral travel dream where I went into it was like 5, 10 years in the future. I was in my 40s and I was uh, in a moment that I experienced an exit from my life on that timeline, and it was not a good experience. But in the moment, I remember actually saying and feeling, "Thank you, I'm done, I'm leaving, everything's over." Because that timeline was very chaotic, not of my highest good, and um, not a very happy one. So my guides had shown that to me, taken me into that moment, let me feel it, let me experience it. And we're basically like, look, you are currently on a timeline that is disastrous. The choices that are in your life, the now moment, that is all going to lead to a life that is not fulfilling, a life that is not happy, and you'll exit early, type of thing. And I was like, well, I mean, at the moment, I didn't really understand that's what they were showing me. And a few months later, I realized I needed to leave the situation I was in. So I had to shift. The biggest way to shift out of a lower timeline is to make big choices. We can't always make big choices, but that is the biggest way to shift your timeline. Like, if you're uh, uh, let's say you're working a 3D job, and I'm not saying that anybody should quit their 3D job. So please don't take it this way. It's, if you're working a 3D job and you're like, I want to shift my timeline to a higher, more spiritual job of sorts, the thing you have to look at is, okay, well, what's affecting me the most? If it's the 3D job, then the choice is, do you stay or do you shift out of that? And to shift out of that, you would make choices to build a different type of job and to slowly phase that out. Now, if you're like me and you don't have the responsibilities, I just said one day I'm done, started closing everything down and jumped off. If you have responsibilities, kids, family, that sort of thing, we obviously have to take all that into consideration. But the idea is that if you want to shift your timeline to something different, big choices are a very big explosive way to jump you out of one and into another. One of the biggest ones I ever made was leaving my ex. Within a month, it was one of those things that my guides brought me more energy, more abilities, more activations, um, more trust, all kinds of things, because I made that choice to get rid of that toxic relationship. And that's another one I was just talking with a friend about, is that when we remove the toxic connections from our lives, it's like our timelines jump even farther towards the highest one because the toxic connections hold us back so much. And it happens very quickly within 1 or 2 weeks because that energy is no longer there. So um, now, if you are in a situation that uh, essentially you're happy with that situation, but you want to shift things to better timelines on a daily basis, there are things you can do like affirmations, saying I am affirmations. Let's say finance is a big one with everybody, with most people, saying like I am financially abundant. In doing that 3, 6, or 9 times in sets of 3, 6, and 9, that magical number that Nikola Tesla used, the universal numbers. So if you say affirmations and gratitudes every day for what you want and what you want to shift into, that energy starts to build. And when that energy starts to build, you start becoming a magnet for whatever that is, which means this is the idea of choice with the timeline your soul is currently experiencing. If you make the choice to do the affirmations, to do the gratitudes and do the work, you'll be able to magnetize and attract that. If you don't make that choice, then you're not going to be attracting that. You'll be in the same energy you are in at the moment. Reframing your mind is a big one. Anytime you feel yourself having a negative thought that does not match what you want, take a moment, step back, breathe in deeply, reframe it. And so if you say like, I'm always in debt, if that's something that's in your mind and you hear yourself saying, oh, I'm always in debt, or something of that nature, stop yourself, breathe for a few seconds, reframe that, and start making different start shifting the energy around it so you can draw different energy to you, better energy to you. Sunlight and Mother Earth are really big with those 3 things. So like one of the things I do that helps me and has helped me actually a ton when I do it is going out, laying on the earth in the sunlight, doing the affirmations and doing the gratitude and asking for their help at the same time. Not only does the sun give you energy, Mother Earth can ground you, heal you. The trees, one of the things they told me the other day, they're like, the trees are always listening and the trees are always talking. And as you build this energy, it's like the trees start to work with you too and send it through the connections within the earth and root systems. And something I want to do more work with is fungi. They were talking about like the networks of all of that helping you with your energy. So when we spend time in nature and we want to shift our life, a lot of that has to do with working with other beings. And that doesn't necessarily mean an ET or a spirit guide or something. It can simply mean working with the Mother Earth and with Father Sun, and then letting that permeate, and then nature, the trees, everything else helps bring that and attract that to us. And then another one was actually asking guides for help too, especially if you're in a really dire place. You can ask your guides like, look, can you intervene for me on my behalf and remove any blockages to this path that I want to experience? And work with them to, whether it's healing work, whether it's removing a person from your life, breaking a toxic energetic cord or something of that nature. Your guides are there to help you. And a lot of them, I posted right before this session, I posted Papa Legba on my Instagram profile. And I work a lot with him where it's like, hey, if I need something, boom, he'll intervene. If I ask him to intervene to remove, I'm like, hey, there's a blockage here. I can't figure out what it is. Show me what it is, what I have to do, or intervene for me to remove it if it's something that I'm not supposed to do on my own, type of thing. And those those techniques of doing just those simple things will jump you um, greatly. It's this idea of, if we have like that now moment, yeah, I'm putting that now moment, and this is the thing you're experiencing. Say you're seeing a house, you can get there in a straight line, or you can go to a lower timeline and be all over the place for a while. And maybe the house comes far later or not at all. Or if you get to it, it's like really a struggle. Or you can ask for help and go through a straight line, or go through a, you know, more of an easy state of being to get to whatever uh, vision you're seeing, uh, and that type of thing. And the idea that being that, you know, with that house example, somebody can see themselves getting a house, but that can come in multiple ways. It could come in a very good way. It could be like, hey, you want a house, here you go. Or it could come in a uh, not so good way, as in more of a, you know, a family member passes and you get the house as the inheritance type of thing, because we don't we just see, hey, we're going to get a house. You know, how does it come? We don't know. That's why a lot of the visions and time travel stuff is about more preparation for what is coming, so that you can prepare yourself, but also bring in the energy you want to have a more positive experience, to have a more aligned experience for you. And then the one thing that I know I talk about it a lot, Nicole and my other friends talk about it a lot, are salt baths. When it comes to doing work with time, when your guides, uh, I don't even have to say come to you, because they're telling me that the energy right now will help a lot of you. There's a strong feeling of just visions and dreams right now, that a lot of people are ready for that, and some people might go a little further. But as you have visions and dreams, you can go into those salt baths and talk to your guides in that space about those experiences. But once you get to a point of astral travel and traveling around, the salt baths are very good for helping you do that, and for quantum leaping. Quantum leaping being shifting your timeline, which is kind of the same thing if you're spending time on the ground with Mother Earth and Father Sun and the trees. You do the same thing in the baths. You do affirmations, you do gratitude, program the water, and just, it's like this exercise of just continuously drawing the energy you want, and programming the energy you want around you to magnetize the timeline and experience you're looking to achieve. And it takes a while to do. It doesn't happen easily. And when we do that, Spirit also sends us tests, and we'll be like, oh, you want to do a new job? The example I can give you is closing down my web development business. I closed it down for good, I think, in April. I had one or two little jobs I had to finish up. And then they were like, okay, so you're shifting into this spiritual work more. How about a web job? Here's a really good web job. Do you want that? Here's another client who's going to show up and be like, hey, I want a new website. Do you want that? And it's so hard to look at those and go, no, because I know if I took them, that's even more financial abundance for me, right? But if I take them, I have one foot in my timeline of the web development 3D work, and one foot in this timeline. So the energy is not going to go to the place it needs to go. It's going to split. You're kind of be living in two worlds, essentially. So the more you can commit to whatever it is you're trying to do, the more, one, you'll be tested, but always stand firm and trust yourself. If you're seeing an outcome that's playing out, just trust that Spirit's going to get you there, but they are going to test you to see if that's the timeline you actually want to be on and commit to. And then the one thing I had to say was, how do you open time travel? And that is that it ends up coming to you. It's an ability that it'll start typically with visions and dreams, from my understanding. And then you'll go into more astral travel, conscious travel, and kind of like with the conscious travel, that's why we build relationships with our guides through meditation methods and that sort of thing. And then they bring us the ability to do that, to open that doorway. Let me ask you this: are all of you experiencing like prophetic dreams and visions and stuff? Couple nodding. Oh, everybody's nodding. Okay. Rebecca, what about you? Did I see you nod? A little bit. I feel like
dreams, prophetic, not sure.
okay. I feel like that's what my guides had told me beforehand too. They're like a lot of people were doing are in like the dream visions state. So as you pay more attention to those and let those get stronger, for those of you dreaming, a dream journal is perfect. You know, write your dreams down. Anytime you feel like it's prophetic, and it's hard to describe the feeling, but the way I recommend people is I'm like, if you keep a dream journal, you'll start to go back and see like, oh, that was prophetic, and I remember how it felt to me. And that's what tells you it's prophetic, is in the moment you might see symbolism, you might see kind of like the chains around my friend I described earlier. Sometimes that can tell you something's coming, but sometimes we have some really strange dreams that are wrapped in symbolism, and we have to go off the feeling of, does that feel prophetic, or does it feel like it was just a random dream or us, doing something else? The more you work with that, that's how I opened my abilities, is I was working with my prophetic dreams a lot. And then anytime I had a vision, I recognized the vision. I was like, oh, okay, I'm having a vision of something, and I might write it down in a journal, or just try to remember it for later, so that in the moment I would be like, oh, okay, this is happening. So it's about strengthening those muscles. And the more you strengthen it, it's like you get to a point where it opens up. My guys are showing me like you're like unscrewing a doorway, and then the light comes in more and more the more you work on it. And once you unscrew it, then it's like you're able to travel through the doorway, and the doorway is more astral travel and doing those other types of things. And also shifting, doing quantum leap work will help too. Will help open that. The more you get used to quantum leaping and shifting and doing that type of work. And then one last thing I wanted to mention was that the highest timeline, we have this idea that our highest timeline is one specific timeline. We're on it, everything's good, everything's coming to us, it's the best it can be. It's actually that the highest timeline is the one where we are free of karma, and we are free of the things holding us back from choice. So our highest timeline is one we create. Everything is about us being able to create it with our own choice, not the karmic ties, the energetic ties that are pulling us back and holding us into another world, which means when they describe it to me, they're like, once you get there, you have so many choices. Like for me, I could have gone into writing my fantasy books. I could have gone into the spirit art. I could do writing spiritual books, all these different choices. And when they describe it to me, they're like, your highest timeline isn't about one or all of them. It's about, you just choose which one you want to do and stick to it. And let that become your abundance. Let that become the thing you love. Let that become what you're doing for joy, type of thing. So once we reduce our karma and eliminate all those attachments, we have the choice to go, well, let's say if I wanted to be a cook, I could go be a cook, and I would still be able to do my spiritual purpose work as a cook and spread light and all that. But I'd rather be an artist. So I have the choice to become a spiritual artist and go that route rather than going the route of a cook, spreading light in that industry and helping people in that manner. Um, so that's the idea of highest timeline. It's not one timeline. It's once you get there, it's whatever you choose. And it also doesn't mean there isn't difficulty, because life is actually about difficulty to help you grow and to help you, choose different paths and things that are better for you and understand what you really want. So that is one of the other things that is that highest does not always mean like easiest either. It just means you're making the choices you want to make with the freedom to make them without anything holding you back. Are there any questions? Anything? No? Okay. I think I covered,
You gave us a lot.
yeah, I think I covered everything. Reality experiences. This is sticking out to me, so I'm just gonna mention this again, because I kind of mentioned it a little bit. Breaking timelines takes commitment. And sometimes it's not easy at all. If you're in a space where you're trying to break a timeline, I think several of us know, like, breaking a timeline with your ex, very, very difficult to do when you leave a relationship, making that jump. I made it once and ended up back in the relationship for another 9 years. And for the last, however, I don't even know how long. It'd been a long time where I kept trying to break that pattern, but could not do it. It takes a lot of commitment to break that pattern. And that could be with a relationship, that could be with a job, kind of like I just described, where I sat down, my guides have been showing me all this time travel stuff. I've been seeing outcomes of the future if I did more spiritual work, which is doing what I love, helping people, doing the artwork, working with the different beings and letting them be seen. The more I did that work, the better the outcomes I saw that were going to come to me. But they were like, you're going to quit your job, you're going to close it down. Okay, you're immediately jumping your timeline, but we're going to see, the universe is kind of going to test you and see, do you want to go back? Because it's like you're in a I don't know how to describe this. For some reason, they're showing me this idea of your feet are in water and the tide's coming in and you're walking out of it. And as you walk up the beach, the tide keeps coming in and touching your feet, teasing you to be like, do you want to come back in the water? Do you want to come back in the water? And until you get off the beach, the tide is going to keep touching your feet, trying to get your attention and see if you'll turn around and walk back. So when you break a timeline, you're in this delicate phase of, do you shift out of it and commit to it? Or do you turn around, walk back into the water? Or you could stay on the beach where you're kind of in both worlds at once. And you might not be in the beautiful jungle, you might not be in the water. You're in a just kind of in between space, I guess is the best way to put it. So it does take commitment when we do that. All the things I described help with that commitment, help with programming, help with getting us into the mindset. And that's one of the things that is important about them, is the programming, because the more you program yourself for that positive outcome, when those tests come, you're less likely to fall to that programming and go, oh, I'm going to go back into the water, or I'm going to go back into, the relationship or the old career or whatever it is. So just keep that in mind as you see things and experience, whether it's a vision, a dream, if you're astral traveling through the experience. If you want that, just commit to it. Just decide, make the choice, commit to it, and start creating the things, bringing the things to you that will shift you. Did you have a question, Rose?
I do. Okay, so I think that breaking the timelines you're talking about, it seems like I was breaking a few timelines these past 2-3 months, but there's one timeline that I think I'm trying to break, but I don't know if it's a contract that I'm breaking, and I don't know if I'm supposed to stay there. So it's kind of confusing me whether I know I'm ready to break that timeline, but I don't know if it's a contract and I'm supposed to still stay within that contract. Does that make sense?
So we do have soul contracts with people, and even as we go into our futures, we make contracts with people, but we always have the opportunity to break those contracts. And when I say break those contracts, I mean get to a point where the situation simply isn't working anymore, especially if it's toxic. It's not beneficial to the growth and learning of you as an individual. And the other person involved or organization, whatever it is not shifting either. Because a contract, when we have contracts to like learn and grow, both of the I don't know what you would call them, the people in the contract, the organization, they have to grow with it. They have to move with it. If you're the only one moving with that contract and there's nothing happening on the other side, then it's kind of like, hey, this is where you see. Here's an example I'll give. So like you have an actor, and they hire an actor for a movie, and the actor's acting through the movie, but then all of a sudden they're having problems on set because the actor is, getting argumentative or being an alcoholic, bringing drugs and alcohol on, or whatever it is, they're getting problematic on set. They break the contract. They don't have to fulfill the contract. They just break it, hire somebody else, and they bring that person in. We can do the same thing with our souls too. So that they're telling me to share this with you. Before I really shifted my energy back in, I did a huge shift back in last fall sometime. My guides came to me. They're like, we need you to sit down and we need you to meditate. Now, I don't traditionally meditate as much anymore unless I'm in a salt bath. And they were like, and they always come to me and they say, we need you to meditate. And I go, oh crap, that means we need to do work of some kind. I lay down, I go into the Akashic records, and my librarian guide is there. His name is Jameis. He's there, and he's got all these books, tablets, scrolls, stone scrolls, all this stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? He goes, doesn't matter, go over to that table, sit down. And I go sit down, and what I realize is in that moment, there's a man sitting there, and the man is actually my higher self sitting there working with me in this space, like a higher version of me. And Jameis comes over and sets everything down. It's just like a mountain of stuff. And they start going, okay, we're going to move you into this new energy. And they pick up a book or a tablet or whatever it is, and they show it to me. And then I can feel it's related to like an old friend. And they're like, do you want to have anything to do with this person anymore? I'm like, no, I thought that was done 20 years ago. They're like, good, crack, smash, throw it away. And they start going through all the people I know and start pulling up the contracts essentially that I've had with people that were either not fulfilled or for some reason there was still a tether there. And they start asking me, do you want to have energy related to this person, No, break it, break it, break it. And there were a few I kept around, and they were like, when it came to those people, it was kind of like good because those people are good for you type of thing. You have the choice to choose now who you're going to have in your life, who you're going to have contracts with to teach and help each other grow. And you don't have to have those contracts with people who are not that's the phrasing I'm looking for, fulfilling their side of the deal. You know, you can't have a contract with two people. If one of them is not fulfilling their side of the deal, then it's just not a good thing to do. So you can break them. Breaking them would be a way to jump and shift that timeline. So you saying and feeling like it's a contract, I'm talking about it a lot. I'm guessing that's the case of what it is. And what you can do is sit down in meditation. Have you ever tried to go to the Akashic records before? No. Do you talk to your guides? I forget if you talk to your guides or not.
It's just annoying. I just know things.
Okay.
It's
What?
really strong, but everything you've mentioned today has helped me integrate that. I've been going through all of that since way before I even thought I was going through it. And it's like I know the answer, but I'm putting a contract to something, but I think that contract's done with, and I need to cut it so I can jump into another timeline, because I just jumped a timeline and I completely shifted that. And then I started seeing those moments of whoa, what am I doing? I'm
Yeah.
here, but so things are happening. But this one thing that I feel is a contract that's done with, that I could cut it. It's something that might unblock something else if I terminate it. But it's me worrying about someone else's feelings. And
Yeah, and that's the hard part. I completely understand and feel for you in that situation, because we don't want to hurt people, but at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for us.
yes.
It's all about what's best for us, and we're not responsible for how somebody reacts. We're only responsible for how we respond, and that's it.
Yes, because I feel like I've been talking mainly with my higher self. It's like there's in between, not that much, but it's mainly my higher self. And when I'm speaking like my higher self, and it's telling me. So there's no way of stopping what I'm saying. It's my higher self speaking through me, and I know that that's facts. So I'm like, okay, but it's me still like, no, maybe not. I don't want to
Yeah.
hurt nobody, because I know how it feels to be hurt, but it has something to do with them. It has to do with me. I have to move forward.
Yeah, you have to move
Okay.
forward. And what I would say is, so potentially doing a cord cutting. Do you know what a cord cutting is?
Yeah, I did it already. It's
And
just
then,
kind of.
if you, I'm going to send you a meditation. And actually, if you all want this, I'll send it to you too. I have on my learning platform, I have a set of meditations. They're under the Unleash Your Spirit course, which is free, but I separated them out, so it's just the meditations. If you want those, just email me, because I can point you to a space where you can just access them without having to go through the whole course. What I would suggest, Rose, is to do the meditation where you meet spirit guides. And I'll make a note to send this to you too. Just write this real quick. Otherwise, with time not existing, it'll be 2 months before you get it if I don't write it down. So do the meditation on spirit guides, and the guide that comes to you, ask them to help you close that contract out, to cancel it. Or maybe if that's not what's for your highest good, just ask them, what is for my highest good right now? Like, you don't necessarily have to cut that right away. You could be like,
I think I've already done that. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Oh,
I
you're fine.
already requested for the greater good of everybody involved to please clear it out without someone else getting hurt, because I already know what I want. I'm very clear on that. So I have already asked for that, but I think it's just whatever's left of it.
Yeah, I would say do that. And then the other things coming up is do a salt bath, and then ask for healing specific to that situation, to rid yourself of any energy that's kind of stuck with you that might be holding on to that situation.
Yeah,
Um,
it's right here. I feel it it's in my heart. I feel the cord in my heart.
yeah, yeah, and that's I know some of my guys. I have them. I thought this is just an example. I thought my ex was I was done with that. It's been 2 years now. I still had like energy almost
Mhm.
buried deep, deep, deep down inside.
Yeah,
And I couldn't figure out what was blocking me from certain things. And they go,
yeah,
we need to get rid of this energy. And they reached in and they like smashed it. And I had stuff from childhood that was still there, stuff from that relationship, things that we don't necessarily know are there. So just ask for your guides. If you work with any like gods or goddesses, healing entities, ask for their help. Archangel Raphael is a good one, to come down and just clear any blockages and heal you of whatever energy might still be sticking to you too, so that
Mm.
uh, you can shift away from that. Because that's another thing I didn't mention is that if you have energy from a past situation stuck to you, we can jump the timeline, but just like you said, you still feel that tug back and you still have this stuff show up in your life because we have to clear and heal whatever is still there to finally make that last shift.
yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, I mean, if that's all, I guess what I'll do is I'll post this to the website, send it all to you so you have it for reference if you ever want to reference it again. And then uh, I'll send you all, if you sign up for that learning platform and send me your email addresses, some of you already have, I believe are already on it. I will send you the meditation part that I send to my clients and stuff that has that grouping, so you don't have to actually go through the whole course to get to it. So you can meet with your guides, talk to them about any, issues with visions or things that you're seeing of that nature. And then, yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions? Last chance.
I just wanted to say
Yeah.
thank you. What you said about the breaking the timelines, one thing you didn't bring up was health. That's what hit me was like the choices and getting pulled back into old choices and moving forward and changing the timeline there was
Yeah,
just big. So anyway, thank you.
you're welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome. Health was a big one for me when it came to diet and sticking to that and realizing that I used to get migraines. I used to have a lot of allergies. My mom asked me the other day, she's like, are your allergies bothering you? Because there's a lot of pine tree pollen at their house, pollen all around. I'm like, no, not at all. And they're like, what do you mean? I used to get like really bad, eyes would so shut when I was a kid type allergies from all the grossness type stuff. And I'm like, no, nothing. And what have I been doing? I'm eating healthier. I mean, that's the biggest thing, eating healthier, exercise, doing those, getting sunlight.
Things I know, I just, again, going back to old choices and,
Yeah,
I'm mostly vegan. I am big into exercise. I believe a lot of the same things you do. So I totally get it, but it's that water pulling me back in. That analogy was just great. So thank you.
you're welcome. No, and I feel for you too, because like I said, I've been there. My biggest problem was bacon. Uh, when before I started shifting my diet, it was bacon, and I would always go back to eating bacon, feel terrible. It just messes with your system. And I had a guide yell at me. They came, an ET guide came through a portal physically into my house, interacted with my cat, which really proved to me they were there. I was like, are you really here? And my cat was being real aggressive with it. And it just looked at her and was like, be quiet. And the cat just kind of goes and goes off. But they looked at me and they just go, you need to stop eating bacon and eating all this junk and doing all this because it's affecting you too much. It's the programming we have in society, and the programming is really when you get down to the nitty gritty, you realize it's not really you yourself. that is going back on things. It's the programming around it from childhood, from society, all that, which is where those affirmations, gratitudes. The one thing I don't think I said about gratitude, and this is actually very important. Be grateful for the things you have presently, like say, like I am grateful for whatever it is you have presently, but also do gratitudes for things you're receiving in the future. So be like, so in the example of the house I gave earlier, be like, I am grateful that I have a new house. It's present, it's now. Even though it's a future thing, it's bringing that energy and feeling to your now moment. So whatever you're struggling with, reprogram that way too, being like, I am grateful for whatever the outcome is that you're looking for, because that'll bring it more into the now moment rather than a future moment. And it'll reprogram your mind to strengthen your mind when those choices do come up, that it's easier to be like, oh no, I need to stop. I need to step back from this.
I have a question.
Yeah, good, Rose.
Would you mind giving